Hey everyone, welcome back to Miniature Painting 101, a series of videos where we teach you all about painting miniatures from start to finish and everything in between, including cleaning up a mistake. And that brings us to part 110, Varnish. Specifically, how to use a varnish as a saving point in a painting, while painting a miniature. And today we'll be using a couple of these Tactical Marines, Dark Angels, and we're going to discuss varnishing your model and then cleaning up if you make a mistake. Now, many painting tutorials like mine, we say that we use varnish as a saving point. And I'm going to show you just how to do that today. So basically, we're going to choose our finish that we want the model to have, and in this case, it's going to be a satin varnish. So I'm going to apply 2 separate coats of satin varnish to the miniature. I always recommend 2 to 3 coats if you're going to try to use a varnish as not only protection from chipping, but a saving point in your model. And by saving point, I mean if you make a mistake later, you can go back by erasing layers of paint. If you just accidentally paint over it, I'll be showing how to do that in this week's video. So once again, we're applying a second layer of varnish, and I'm making sure to cover the entire model and that it's completely sealed. Whenever you hear the term sealed, you're referring to varnish, and you want the entire model covered in your varnish and let it completely dry and then do it again and repeat until you're happy. So now we're just going to take some moot green and we're going to do a couple edge highlights over the miniature, and I'll show you how to remove the excess moot green later on after it's completely dry, and we're going to give it plenty of time to set, and then also show how to remove moot green if you make a mistake like this. Oops! As you can see, we made moot green on the arm. We don't want it there. So now it brings us to how are you going to clean up this very quickly. The first step obviously was to varnish your miniature. That way you provide a nice saving coat and a nice protection. If you want to then use something to remove the paint. Now what I recommend is get to the mistake as fast as possible and use the least harmful method possible. So we're going to take water, because now this is acrylic paint, so that the simplest and least invasive paint remover that we can use is water, because it is water based. And if you get to it relatively quickly, all we're going to do is add water to our Q-tip or cotton swab, however you call it, and we're just going to carefully remove paint. Just wipe off a little bit at a time with the wet end, and then take the dry end and just dap it dry very nice and carefully. You don't want to be too extreme and too scratchy. That's why I like to use cotton swabs, because especially for the short-term stuff, because you don't want to be too evasive and just scratch your miniature. Cotton swabs are nice and soft, and you can easily use them to remove any excess paint very quickly. But the key is to get to the paint as quickly as possible. Now obviously if this is alcohol-based paint, you can use alcohol, because alcohol is needed to remove it, or if you're using oil paints, you can use mineral spirits. But if you're using acrylic paints like these, I highly recommend getting to the mistake quickly and using water before it has a long time to set, because that way you don't have to use anything harmful chemicals, and you can remove the stain quickly and easily. As you can see here, now it is all nice and fixed. No more moot green on the arm. And we fixed the short term. But that brings us to the question, what about the long term? What if you made a mistake and you want to thin down a level afterwards? So let's take a different miniature and let's add that same moot green line on the arm. So now we're going to take either as I said, we can use a cotton swab, or we can simply use just a brush that has some pretty strong bristles, some pretty tough bristles. And we're going to take mineral spirits. Now in this case, water may not work, so we're going to go to the big guns here. Mineral spirits. And this is what many people use to clean up their miniatures, providing that they properly sealed to them. That is the first key. So we're just going to take a little bit of mineral spirits, add it into the lid, and then add a little bit onto our brush, and just clean off the arm. And this has been setting for about 12 hours at this point, so plenty of time to set. And we're just going to carefully remove that layer of paint using mineral spirits, which is a paint thinner. Now as I said, the key is properly seal the miniature, and you got to be very careful, especially when removing the excess mineral spirits. Use a cotton swab in this case and be very careful. And as you can see, it does come off, but you got to be very careful not to remove any more layers than just that one layer of paint. And now you can see he's completely fixed, and I went and added some more moot green. So now let's remove the excess moot green from the helmet, and I also added just a bunch of bile tan green shade to his foot, and I'll show you a quickly way of just removing it. Same thing. So we're going to take our mineral spirits, put it on our cotton swab, and just carefully remove that paint by just going along the paint lines and removing it one little bit at a time. And the key is with mineral spirits is, as I said, be very careful. You can let it just dissipate by itself, and that way you don't actually disturb it. But if you find you put a little bit too much on with your cotton swab, just dap it dry with the other end of a cotton swab, a dry one. And as you see, we were able to thin down significantly the line of paint, and we were able to clean it up using just a little bit of mineral spirits on a cotton swab. And I'll just keep going a little bit more, just remove a little bit more to thin it down even more, because it was very thick lines and now it's very thin lines, and we've been able to clean it up using that. And then at the same point, we're going to take our mineral spirits and we're going to do the foot. As I said, what a lot of people do then is you just overwhelm the area with shade. For example, I could do the entire foot, and I did that earlier with Biotan Green, and then just take the mineral spirits and quickly dab the areas that are more hit by the light source and that are not in the recesses along the edges. As you can see here, I'm just carefully removing a little bit of the mineral spirits from the foot. And then, so in the end, it's not really easily seen in this case, but it will be in the recesses and the edges, but won't be where you quickly removed it. And that's a quick way to just to remove any excess shading that you have from the miniature. So here's what the model looks like when it's done. It's all nice and clean and no mistakes on it, as you can see. So that's the key. As I said, get to the mistake as quick as possible. Use the least strength cleaner if possible. So I'll start off with water if you're using acrylics. And that's about it. So thank you as always for watching this episode of Miniature Painting 101. Really hope you enjoyed it. Stay tuned for next week's episode, part 11. But if you don't want to wait for next week, check out The Warp. Click on the link below for a free 14-day trial to my premium YouTube channel, where not only will you get to see the next 6 months worth of Miniature Painting 101 episodes before anyone else, you get to see over 100 start-to-finish painting tutorials, dozens of battle reports and face-off episodes, an Airbrush 101 series, just tons of wargaming content. You're going to love it. Go check out The Warp. Yes. So stay tuned for more videos. Until next time, this is Jay saying, happy painting, everyone.